So, all right, let me get this straight. All right.
What the fuck am I supposed to do with this thing?
If you don't know by now.
Jesus. Oh, man.
Listen.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the... Yeah, not yet. So, let me get this straight. You're telling me, right, we were talking before the show, you were telling me that if you bury a dead body in your backyard, that you no longer have to pay property taxes.
Or be part of an HOA. And
What? HOA?
Anything, any rule. It's like if it's property taxes, part of an HOA, you're now deemed a cemetery. So you have your own set of laws.
Oh, is that why? Because you're deemed a cemetery? No. Really? Do you have to register the land as a cemetery?
I don't have the specifics on it. I was just doing a good deed and telling you that I was telling my husband what he can do with my body. Well, why it's cold. Warm's different, okay? I'm just saying, like after I'm getting gone, bury me in the backyard and don't. I told him to sell the house that we have now. Go where you want to live, on the water, wherever.
Right.
Put me in, in the ground.
And
enjoy life.
All right. So you said Trump did this?
Trump did it with Ivana, his first wife, is buried on the golf course.
Really?
At Lagomar.
All right, we need to verify all this, but I'm not saying I don't trust you.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't trust you?
No, it is.
I'm sorry. We need to ask Googleisha about this.
Yeah, we need to Google this up.
Ivana Trump was buried at it's called Bedminster.
You're looking this up online right now?
I'm looking it up.
Okay.
We all have
All right, then what does it say?
I just told you.
Bedminster?
Bedminster, that's his golf course, I believe.
Okay.
That's where she was buried. I'll get back to you. You're putting me on the spot here. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. You want specifics. I'm just throwing stuff out.
Well, these guys had questions. We started raising
they might know
questions.
More. They looked it up. I made a comment. And they're thinking out their life here. Like, who can we bury and marry, or marry and bury over here? Well, I know some both.
Well, I'm thinking, like, if you can not pay property, there's going to be a lot of dead guys here soon.
That's why I don't want to be the one saying the laws.
Well, here it is.
Yeah. All right. Well. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Cheers.
This is the Connected by Water podcast, fueled by our very good friends at Papa's PLRM. Remind you never to be a spectator. We are a Waypoint hosted podcast, and you can find us there or watch, listen, and do not forget to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Hit that like button, and please, we would love to hear from you in the comments or by email at sales@connectedbywater.com. Before we get to our lovely guests this evening, we are going to mention the Starbright Solutions do-gooder of the week. And this week's Starbright Solutions do-gooder, Team Do-Gooder, hashtag Team Do-Gooder, is John Witherspoon. And now what John did was he rescued Starbright do-gooder and brand ambassador, you may know him, Blair Wiggins, and his prized deck boat. Blair had simultaneous tire issues, and John did him a solid by towing him and his boat to Crystal River. So thank you, John, for that. You are Starbright's do-gooder of the week, and you win a bucket of fun, which can be seen behind these guys behind us here. It's got your reggae sponge, your citrus cleaner, your salt off, and all the great products, and the boat wash, and the fuel treatment, and the screen cleaner protectant, and all the great products that we left from Starbright. So congratulations, John. And as always, thank you to Papa's Pilar Rum and Starbright for your great support of our show. So, joining me today is Jason Robinson, Ben Sharpe. What's up? We've been talking about doing this for like how long?
I don't know. It's been a while.
Right?
It's definitely been a while.
It's been like a few years. Like every time we see each other, we're like, when we can do that podcast? When we do that podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And you said your third episode?
Yeah, third.
Yeah. So.
And fun.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, great talk about music one time, and
Well, the first time you came in, we had a really good talk about jazz because we're both jazz fans.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then with John Vendetta and talking about family dynamics and the industry and all that, and now today, one of my best friends here. So
yeah, that was a very good episode with John. I mean, I really, really love that because we got to talking about we were talking about it briefly even before this, the life of captain and family and travel and trying to keep all that together, and and all the challenges that faces and that face, and Carlene knows no stranger to that life as well. She is a captain's wife. So I really wish you were here that night for that conversation. That would have been, you could have added to that. We'll probably get into that a little bit today. But first, I want to talk a little bit about you guys. So set us up with your verbal resumes for the audience. Just like doesn't matter who goes first. So Captain Ben Sharpe, naval officer, right?
I wasn't an officer. I was enlisted. I work for a living.
All right.
Yeah, no, I'm a Miami kid. I graduated from Cole Park Senior High School in the year 2000, which makes me a 1981 baby.
Whoop whoop.
That's what I'm talking about. I joined the Navy. Well, actually, I started fishing when I was young. All the lakes, all that stuff. Party boats, all that. Then I went to the Navy. Got a chance to kind of fish around the world. So I was able to kind of make a lot of contacts. Probably do stuff that was way against operational secureness here. I was calling ahead, setting up charters every port we were going to. Which was cool.
Really?
Oh yeah, man! Got a chance to fish in Singapore and what was that? In Bahrain, Australia, all over, just setting it up through the MWR. So that was cool. But when I was in the military, I was a naval meteorologist. Got out, did what everybody that gets out the military kind of says, which is I went to school. Then realized I am not a school person. So then I started doing what I loved again, which was fishing. And and it's kind of brought me to this. I definitely met some people along the way that helped me out. I think that the biggest assist was when I met the guy from El Palacio de los Jugos, which is a little famous Cuban food restaurant down in Miami. Gave me the opportunity to run a boat, and never turned around from there, man. Just
nice.
Took the torch and ran.
Yeah, nice.
So and now I'm here. Numerous jobs, each one you learn from. Just happy to be where I'm at now.
Yeah, very cool. Jason.
Same thing. Kind of born in Miami. Ended up.
So you're from Miami too?
Yeah, born and raised in Miami.
Oh, nice.
Miami Gardens, yeah.
All right.
So kind of grew up down there, fishing lakes, party boats, bridges, kind of wherever I could get out. Fast forward from there, I went to Archbishop McCarthy High School out here in Fort Lauderdale, out in West Broward. All my buddies, a bunch of my buddies now, they're all guides and stuff like that now. So kind of grew up in high school, getting to bounce around, do a little bit of that. My brother lived in Key West, actually a Navy guy, just like Ben. So I'd go and spend my summers from like the time I was like in the 6th grade all the way through high school. I'd spend my summers in Key West with him. He worked on a party boat and had a couple buddies with boats, so we'd get out that way. And I went away, played a little bit of small college football, small school.
Where?
I went to Mass Maritime. I was trying to get my Coast Guard Unlimited license.
Okay.
Nice.
So I played a little football there. I played a little football at Marion University, another small school in Indiana. And I came back home and kind of fell right back into fishing with all my buddies. And but mainly my brother definitely started me, and then fishing with a few friends. Ben and I kind of crossed paths, and he gave me an opportunity, and just kind of took it and ran from there, and was able to hop on a bunch of different boats, run a few boats the last few years, fish some tournaments, and now I have my own little charter boat and do some freelance stuff, and that's been it.
It's cool, man. It's like I love like hearing that, like about the whole like party boat, and then like fishing on piers, and like the whole like pier rat thing, and just and then taking it all the way to a level that you guys have taken it. I mean, you guys are both fishing on the Viking Challenge, like this, which is basically like as top as you can get. You know what I mean? So you're just seeing it from like taking it from like
Absolutely.
Backpacking like the little lakes and like trying to find peacocks and everything like that, and then going all the way to Viking.
Well, God, man,
Challenge, like being like working on big boats like that, and that's great.
Well, man,
that's following your passion right there.
Well, I totally messed up though, man. I gotta give credit to my mom big time, because my mom, she was a trooper. She was the one that used to take me around to all these party boats and take me over to the pier and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's a passion from TV, but there's no execution of it without her.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I could speak to that too. Like if we actually, this location, for example, like the cool part about us being in the studio right here in Pompano is that it's really like a full circle, kind of situation. I was explaining this. We had like Mikey Finiguera and Mike Lambrechts on the previous episode. And then a couple days later, Mikey and I went to lunch, right? And so he asked me, he's like, so what's up, with the studio and everything? I'm like, well, it's kind of like, these are my stomping grounds. Like when I grew up, like right here, and the first ever art gallery that I was ever in is in the building behind us right now, right? And I was 17 years old. I went to Gibbons. And then IGFA used to be right off Atlantic Boulevard. I don't know if you guys remember that.
That I do not know.
Way back when, right? Before the Bass Pro thing. So IGFA, it was right here near the public library off Atlantic, like kind of like midway between here and 95. And one day I went and I knocked on the door, and it was Mike Leach answered the door. And I was like, hey, you want to see my artwork? And he didn't say no, and he brought me in. He like spread it out on the table and everything like that. And then he's like, oh, you got to check out that art gallery, the Wildfish collection that was here. And I went up there, and they let me hang the work up there, and it was cool. So, but growing up, my mom used to drop me off at this beach, this pier, like all day long during the summers. Like she would just drive me and just let me go and like come pick me up at the end of the day. So I was just fishing or surfing if the waves were up or whatever, like that. So it's kind of really like a full circle moment for us. So yeah, thanks to the moms for doing that. So without that, who knows if any of that whole would, aspect of it even being like a full circle moment would have ever happened without her scooting me around.
For sure. Can I go like way off kilter here? And
do whatever you want.
Mikey Lambrechts real quick.
Yes, absolutely.
So I have a great Mikey Lambrechts story. My first time meeting Mike Lambrechts, he was 16 years old.
All right.
And I met him online.
Isn't he still 16?
Wait. What kind of? Let's hold on. Let's go back to here. Yeah. So you met him online when he was 16 years old.
I met him online.
Hold on.
I swear this is horrible.
Went left.
Yeah, my phone off. Right?
So I met him online through the Florida Sportsman Forum. All right. So
still not getting any better.
Isn't that?
Oh my God, it gets even worse. So then he's like, oh yeah, this is when he owned that not him but his mom owned the Boston Whaler Outrage back in the day. It's like a 32. It was like the nicest Boston Whaler ever.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh yeah, he was freaking in love with a kingfish. This kid was like, oh my God, I need a kingfish. So I was like, look, I'll go fishing with you. And he's like, yeah, cool. So here's my address. I get there, and I swear to God, I'm like, I feel like I'm on the episode To Catch a Predator right now. I'm walking.
Like I said, going back to the
I'm walking down the side of the house.
Chris is going to be waiting for you inside.
Come in. Take a seat.
So what were you thinking when you messaged this young man?
Right? Like, what were your intentions after this pizza?
But yeah, and then it's even worse because
what did you mean when you texted?
Put it on the rod.
I'll blame my own rods.
It's terrible.
So yeah, that my first time even was when he was 16, and thank God I met his mom, met his sister, all that stuff. So I didn't get put in jail.
How old was his sister? It was a joke.
He's trying to recollect the age.
So, but no, he ended up being.
How much older are you than Mike?
Oh my God, I think I was 28 when that happened. I got out the military, so how old is Mike now? Actually,
I think he's 32.
Gotta be
33, something like that.
33.
Yeah. So I was 14 years older than him. Yeah. Almost 14 years older.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, I know. It was like, I look back now, I was like, oh. Like if
and now he's the president of the Broward CCA chapter.
Right.
Or we love our Mike Lambrechts.
Yeah. I love that kid. He's awesome.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's funny. Where do I go from there?
Yeah, for real.
Can't do that nowadays.
Actually, he was pretty excited when he came in. He caught his first black marlin with Mike down in Epic, Costa Rica.
That was pretty cool. Me and him spoke about that a little bit. I speak to Mike a good amount. We spoke about that a little bit. I actually got to fish with Mike Allagood. I think me and my wife went down there. It was like 2 years ago now. Yeah. And we had like a pretty cool experience down there with him. And
yeah, listen, we tell people all the time on the show, like, if you're going to go down to Costa Rica with like Los Sueños, you just book him. And he's going to be booked, you know what I mean? You got to like book him out in advance.
We got super lucky to fish with him. We had 2 really fun days with him. Yeah,
that's cool. He's always, we do all like his, shirts and apparel and design and stuff like that. But super that's not why I like him. I like him. He's a really cool guy. He's a great captain. Yeah,
fishes hard and super nice guy.
Epic fishing down in Costa Rica. Seriously, we can't suggest it enough. But you hooked into a marlin
Yeah.
this weekend.
Yeah.
Or last weekend.
Last
right?
weekend, yeah.
Yeah.
Down in Key West, man. That thing was sick.
That was like unexpected.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
So
Totally.
what did they hit?
Herring, left mid.
Really?
Oh, yeah, man. Absolutely.
Come on.
He
Mad
said
at
it in
this thing.
that tone right there too.
Yeah,
That same tone.
we just released a sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hey, sailfish on left mid. Oh, that's a blue marlin left mid. And then, they're like, come on. Everybody's like looking up at the tower like, are you serious? And then they look and then he comes, misses it the first time. And then he comes up again the second. Like he get all nice. And you know how they get that iridescent tail and everything?
Yep.
He
All lit up.
Oh, it lit up. And that second time, there was no escape.
Wow.
Boom, got him. And then he just kind of sat there. And I was like, oh, my God, we might get him. We might get him. I'm like whispering because I don't want to freak out from hearing my voice. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it matters.
Don't mind the motor. Coming back in reverse. Don't mind the motor.
Yeah. So we roar back in reverse. We like get a tip on him.
Right.
So which qualifies as a release.
Right.
What I mean? But we're like, okay.
So you did get the release?
Oh yeah, we got the release on this thing.
Wow.
Very quickly.
And then
On 20-pound?
on 20-pound 30 leader.
Really?
Yeah, and then he took off, and I put the videos online. But
Pretty work.
Thanks. Man.
Nice.
It was pretty awesome, man. I mean, those guys.
How long was
downstairs,
that fight?
Hour. Like we fought them for another hour because I wanted to get like a good get them up.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where we're like, okay, what are we doing? We basically got the release already. So let's.
I mean, does the count the same? Is it just
It
to
was-
go
it
down
was
as a
in the tournament.
fish?
It was pre-fishing.
What's that?
It was pre-fishing.
Oh, you were pre-fishing.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I thought you were like in the tournament.
No, I
for that.
wish, man.
Oh man. I mean, do they count blues? Like,
Yeah, and it
more
counts
than the
400
sales.
points, yeah.
It is. So they do by points. They don't just do it by like.
Correct.
points.
And it's like 1, 2 for whites and 4 for sales.
Yeah, that's a
I mean,
fun tournament, isn't it?
I enjoy it. They do such a great job with it too.
Yeah.
Just keeping it fun. It seems like they don't cut any expense in that. The poker run they have on the lay day is awesome. You just go to different bars, you pick up your poker card, and they have drinks on them.
Yeah. The distillery is one of the spots in that, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
It's the last spot.
Yeah.
It's what they call the bonus
Papa's,
card.
Yeah, Randy Strauss stopped by today because he was fishing the tournament on the Surreal.
Yeah.
And he brought in that guitar for us as a gift to the studio there.
Oh, awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're displaying it behind you there. But he was telling me that was one of the spots in the pub crawl.
It was.
And that's
good
pretty
time
cool.
there. It was
That
really good time.
distillery, if you haven't been to the Papa's Pillar Distillery down there in Key West, it's really, really cool. So were you guys able to stop in there?
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
got really familiar with it.
We spent some time there. That's
Like
for
we
sure.
literally, I got there, I left there, and came back.
Really?
Yeah, I
Did you
guess.
hang out with the Hemingway statue?
Nah, it's inside. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That's where Pat Haley gave his
Yeah.
little speech.
Oh yeah, and Pat, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he gave it pretty good.
That's cool. I got to meet Pat up in Atlantic City
Super nice
for
guy.
the last Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
funny dude. He I guess he came up with a drink there called a Vicodin.
Really?
Yeah, so he's at the captain's meeting like, all right, everybody come and get your Vicodins. And everybody's like, what is he talking about?
What's in it?
There's some fruity drink that they made there.
Oh,
You know what
okay.
I mean? I couldn't do it. I'm a
One of those
straight.
sneak up on you kind of things?
Yeah, but I'm a
sure,
straight guy, you know?
Yeah.
Like I mean,
Well,
straight rum guy, you know?
That's what Mike Lambrechts
You
tells
like
us.
taking little boys
Oh,
fishing.
God.
Here we go.
Oh, man.
Oh, I'm poor Mike. You were blowing him up right now.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be the first time. Sorry.
Oh my god.
What boat were you fishing on? You fished it?
now. It never came out. We're good.
What boat did you fish
I
on?
fished with Ben.
Oh, you guys
I
fished
fished
together
with
on
Ben
it?
for
All
that
right,
one,
cool.
yeah.
What
I
boat were
fished
you?
with Ben for the
Boat named Traveler.
Traveler?
5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pikey owners, and for the Jimmy Johnson. I fished with Ben this year.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, man. So and then we fished against each other this past weekend. Yeah.
Right. How'd you do in the final?
Not great.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it was pretty cool watching other people catch fish. You know.
Dude, Sandman though.
Oh,
Like
wow.
holy
You know?
crap, 3 in a row.
Yeah, you know, I remember when I first started, fishing. You know, that you have the names that like you idolize. You know, him being one, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Quentin to a certain extent.
Certain extent.
Huh?
You said Quentin to a certain extent?
Well, I mean, I don't mean it as
I'm just saying.
no,
It's on
of
the
course.
record.
Yeah,
It's on
Quentin,
the record.
for sure. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to a certain extent then, but I mean absolutely because they're amazing guys
100%.
that
Right.
every tournament they do their thing. And I remember, I think you were on the boat the day. It might have been one of the last years that they had the K Rock. No, it was the
Bob Lewis.
no, it was the K-Rock that year.
Okay.
That we were out there fishing, just having a fun day. This is when I was running T-Barone back in the day, and the get lit was, I think, 10 fish up on everybody.
Yeah, that was a hell of a boat.
Yeah, it was. But it was just some
that was a
legends
hell
on
of a
that
boat, dude.
But they were like 10 fish on them, and then I remember watching on this was John Louis on the Wound Up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I remember him hooking a quad and watching that boat do stuff that I never knew a boat can do. It was just spinning around, and they sat there in 30 minutes and caught 11 fish right in front of us. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where we just motored offshore and we just watched. Like we were at a golf tournament, you know? Just like, wow, you know?
I remember one tournament it was I don't know what tournament it was. It's funny because every time we have like Art in here, like he does, I know what tournament it was 30 years ago, the way the wind was blowing.
He's a different species, though, man.
Yeah.
He like pulls stuff out of his Rolodex. That's like, yeah,
it's crazy. But we were one tournament, and I was actually fishing with Gerard, and those guys on the Double Diamonds like years ago. We're out there, we're just like right next to Ray Rocher, and it's just like, oh yeah, Miss Britt with another one, Miss Britt with another one. And it's like, whose boat is that? Right? And he goes, oh, that's Ray Rocher. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, man, it's impressive. I don't know. One of these days I'll figure out how to unlock the key like him. You know what I mean? But I mean, that's hands down just some of the most amazing fishing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Jay, who did you like look up to like growing up?
I mean, I grew up like around that Haulover area, so like Dennis Forgione. I ended up getting able to fish with Dennis for a few years, and I learned a ton from Dennis. Bouncer Smith's another one. I got to fish with Bouncer a little bit. Obviously, I worked with Ben. Joe Turner's another one.
Joe
Turner is like
that's a hell of a captain.
Yeah, that's like those years that I fished with Joe, like just I felt like sped up like my learning curve and just fishing in general, and you know those are all the names. And I never really got a chance to fish with Ray when Ben was running a Brit. I went and made it for Ben while he was running one of Ray's boats, but I never got to fish with Ray. But another guy that I definitely looked up to, obviously John Louis, Art Sapp. I mean, it's crazy how much Art and I speak now. Like growing up, like fishing on meat tournaments, watching this guy, you know, kind of crush all the meat tournaments. You're kind of like, oh, well, now I talk to Art once or twice a week. So Art's good like that, man. He's a good dude. Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's it's cool, like, you know, just being in this community and just being amongst like such greatness all the time. You guys are in that circle, like seriously.
I appreciate it.
No, I mean, there's no doubt about it, right? And it's cool, like that community that's built around that, and like the legacy that comes through. You know what I mean? And we try to. That's one of the reasons why we started this show, was because I always thought, like, man, like imagine if there was something like this in like the 80s, and we were getting all these guys that were doing great things, and if we could get like, you know, when kite fishing first started becoming the thing, and it's like talking about it then, and like we're trying to like catch moments and lightning in the bottle, like for like this time now, you know what I mean? And you know, recording history, you know, basically of all these great people and all these interesting characters that are like in this scene. So I don't know, like, I mean, who would you think, like, if you had to like make a Mount Rushmore of all time, like, and I don't like put you on the spot, like asking you like a question like this, like either one of you, like of all time, like South Florida, let's just say sailfish.
Man, that's impossible to answer because I wasn't born in the 40s, 50s. I know there's a bunch of people that I would upset.
Let's say from like the 80s on.
80s on, I probably say Louis Sr. is one.
Okay.
Bob Lewis. Bouncer Smith.
It's a tough
for
one.
sure. Yeah,
there's a lot of people.
I don't know if it's actually possible to like really answer that question.
There's a lot of people that have just made an imprint. You know, little things and
Ray, Jimmy, David, Ray Rocher,
and all these guys. I mean, even, you know, I give Nick his credit too. You know, Nick Carullo, he's doing great. JC, you know, a lot of young people. I mean, I think you got to
put Art up there.
Art's got to be
100%. I mean, and I think, you know, you can look at some of these like
Matty Tambor,
up and comers. I mean, Man, you know who's going to be an absolute stud when he's in his like 30s, 40s? Jack.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, he's so good, you know. So I mean, I can't just.
I know that situation firsthand, and I know that family, you know, the Paul's family, and just like how they are.
Yeah.
And you know, the hard work that, you know, Bernard puts into those kids, and it just like the discipline of just giving them the opportunity to just like, you know, do it, but never letting them get soft about it. You know what I mean? True. And I think that speaks volumes to like the progress that he's shown in a very short period of time.
Correct.
You know?
100%.
Yeah. And just given and that's where, you know, where I think like you're saying with like your mom, like guiding you around, I think that's where like involved parents matter. Yeah. But you know,
I mean, you could go a lot of names in that conversation. That conversation could go on forever. As far as like you're talking about Mount Rushmore and
we talk a lot. Yeah, we talk a lot about. All right, so let me ask you this, because you guys are Miami guys, right? So we often say around these parts that, and there's a really strong argument for both sides of this, right? Mm-hmm. We often say that Pompano is the cradle of civilization when it comes to sport fishing. In a lot of ways.
I want to hear the question. Go ahead.
Listen.
Right?
Listen.
I mean,
Dennis is about to get his ass kicked on his own.
I'm gonna listen for sure on this one.
But a lot of it comes from Pompano. Like a lot of it. But Miami, too. And I've talked to Art about this, and I talked to Skip about it, and we go on about it. And for a while, where I was like, oh yeah, Pompano, but you know, some of these guys put up a real good argument. And you know, even Art raised it up like real good argument for Miami. Yeah, you know, being like it's also a wider base and everything like that, but you specifically have to go like town to town. But we're kind of breaking down like, oh, you got Deerfield guys, you got Pompano guys, you got Fort Lauderdale guys. Right. It's not just like a Dade versus Broward thing, but if you look at Pompano as this little microcosm of a town, like so much comes out of this little point. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it depends honestly on where you grow up. But I think we all agree that South Florida is the cradle of some of the best fishermen in the world. Yeah. If you go any place in the world and somebody's like you'll find somebody from South Florida on the dock.
Yes.
Correct. If that's the question, is that the route you're going with this question? There's definitely a different style of fishing with the Miami boys.
Well, that's kind of. Like, I mean, I'm just opening up. You're just enhancing. I'm just opening it up to the whole thing.
Dick hard with the dropping. It's like, listen, I've watched it. I'm a Lauderdale girl. Mm-hmm. I fished down in Miami. You know, back in my day. You know, but that's the neat thing about fishing in Miami is that you have that like intensity about it. Like Maddie's gonna drop in your shit. You know what I'm saying? And you're gonna be like, but then you know, like it's the whole pick up and run, and it's just very like, fuck you, you know, kind of. But there's love in it in the end, you know. Like we all have the same passion, I guess, but there is an aggressiveness to it. But that's kind of the fun part of wanting to fish Miami. So I mean, is that fair to say?
I agree with that. But I might be a little. Maybe I'm late to this, but I feel, and by meaning late, as maybe I'm dating myself here, but I feel that the love is more recent than it is.
That it used to be.
Yeah, for sure. Because I feel that there was always like this for some reason this barrier between the Lighthouse Point guys, Pompano guys. You know, because to me, I'm sorry, maybe this might be stupid, but I feel like the Lighthouse Point and the Pompano guys are just kind of the same guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's fair. Lighthouse Point's a little bit more
she.
Yeah, it's a Hoyt.
I mean, it is. I mean, there's
most of the guys like
but
now.
It's the same area. Like one's the parent, one's the child. You know,
after running a boat up here, there's definitely a big difference between Lighthouse Point and Pompano. There's some offensiveness.
You're gonna get the kids that are actually growing up on a boat, and then you're gonna get the kids that kind of grew up how we fished, like
on the pier and everything. That's Pompton.
You know what I mean? That's how I grew up fishing.
Understood. So, but I feel though that the love fest now, because now everybody talks. You know what I mean?
And I think social media has broken down a lot of those barriers too, probably. Yeah.
I'm going to go even further back. I feel the cell phone, period, is what broke it down. Yeah, I mean, because before you see this guy and you see him mugging you, and he's looking, you're looking at him, and then he's like, "Yo, what's this guy thinking about me?" Now you have a grudge, and you haven't even talked.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and then now you go to a captain's meeting, you exchange numbers, you're on the water, and you're actually helping each other, and you're like, yeah, this guy's not that bad. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like me and Brick. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be best friends, right?
That was funny. That whole scenario. So Brick comes on the show to get his haircut, right?
What?
Yeah. So remember when Brick used to have just like, so he tells me I should actually put up one of those old clips. That'd be hilarious. So he used to have just long hair, right? And then he's like, oh, I need to get a haircut first before coming on your podcast. My wife wants me to look like Uhtred of Bebenberg. You know who that is?
No.
So, you know who that is? Right. The Viking guy, right? From some Netflix show. Right?
Uhtred. Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the show.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah, with the dames and the
yes, exactly. Yeah. Right. So he comes on. I'm like, well, we'll cut your hair on the show then. And we got a barber or a hairstylist like next to us, so she came over. There's someone I went to high school with. She came over and like cut his hair on the whole thing. But coming to the show, there was like friction between you two, right?
No,
how would you explain that?
I didn't come to that show.
You weren't on. It wasn't that
here
show
for that hair cutting, that crap.
I did not.
Crap.
No, sir, I wasn't.
That was an Emmy award-winning podcast. No. So what episode was it? Regardless,
he came again.
All right. Like Mike Lambrechts. Sorry.
Oh my God.
Hey, Utah.
Man, we're getting sidetracked. Anyway, so there was friction though between you and Brick.
Long story short, he likes to talk shit on Facebook.
Okay.
And I was simply putting a post up, sharing a post of a lady looking for a wedding charter on a smaller boat. So I'm like, hey man, who's got a charter boat, the sport fish boats that can take 5 people out and make this lady's dream that's flying in on these dates, and she wants to do a little, it's completely. And he fucking chimes in, right? And I'm up in my cabin in North Carolina, like watching watching the wind go by, drinking my coffee, enjoying life, and this fucker's on the other end, just like. Just going off about charter this and charter that and people like me. And I'm like, well, I'm married to a charter captain. Okay. My husband was a charter captain. He runs big boats now, but that's the life that he came from. And I met him on the docks. Yeah. So I know the schematics. And I'm just like, and he's so like, he's feeding into it. And he's feeding, this is like what he lives for. And it's funny because he didn't realize that what it was. I'm cordial with people. I'm not going to, for the most part. And I gave you the backstory, and him and I realized when he came here, it kind of came out, and it was just funny because we're a lot alike, actually, because I was feeding into him too as well, and I was like, I'm sitting up on a fucking mountaintop right now, enjoying my coffee. You think you can like bother me in any of the, whatever it is? And it was like this long, of like this ongoing so needless to say.
You guys are best friends now.
We're best friends now. He actually called me on Saturday night, but it's just funny because it's like now we definitely make a point to say hello when we see each other for sure.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we have some lovely history with Brick too. I love him. That's all I'm gonna say.
You gotta, it took us a minute. It took us a podcast here to kind of realize what's up, and we threw some one-liners at each other. We're like, all right, you're good. Yeah, fucker.
Yeah. Actually, I got one story I can talk about Brick. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I whatever. He'll fess up to this. He got us with the whole staple the ropes to the dock thing one time.
It wasn't staples. It was nails.
Nails. Okay.
I was the one who had to dig them out.
Yeah.
Wow. What happened?
So we shared a dock space in Kings Bay, and and he's like, oh, these assholes didn't take the trash out this time. Oh no, we took up. He's like, oh, these assholes took up all the parking in front of the house, so we're gonna show them. So he nailed our dock lines to the dock.
No.
Yeah. Well, they went out to the sandbar or whatever they do. They came back and all the cars were gone, but our boat wasn't back. And they're like, oh shit, I guess it wasn't them. But he never unnailed the lines. So
and they weren't your cars, were they?
No, they weren't our cars.
So back to the Bahamas.
Yeah. So we come back and we're like, all right, well, there's only one person that would do that, so we know what's up with that. And then I ran into him, and he's like, "Oh, Benji, my bad, buddy." You know what I mean? And I'm like, listen, Brick, I love you, man. I mean, if you want a war, let's do it. Yeah, I mean, but he said, no, my bad. Sorry about that, you know. But listen, we get along great now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And every time I see him, he seems like he's happy to see me, which I'm genuinely happy to see him because I think he's a nicer person now than when I originally met him. So but that's my story.
Well,
my
I've only known nice bricks, so
yeah.
I guess I'm just lucky in life.
Yeah, there's some great stories going on around him.
So,
and I'm just gonna drop it there. So,
all right. So
this rum is great, by the way.
You like the rum?
Oh, I love it.
So what is? I mean, where are we at with the Miami Pompano thing? Like, we're truly like how you feel.
How do I feel? Man, I have so much respect for those guys. I think that the Pompano guys are, in a way, they can definitely claim as claim the title of some of the better fishermen because they're like middle of the road. They got to know how to fish Miami, and they also got to know how to fish Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just because it depends, or you can just ride out front. So when it comes to knowledge of just general areas and stuff like that, I feel the Pompano guys definitely have a leg up on the Miami guys. I just feel though by sheer population, you'll get more guys that come out of Miami.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's true. I mean, you got a lot more guys, and
you have some of the best fishermen that have ever existed in South Florida. With Ray, Quentin, and even Louis when he was running LNH are charter guys. And the rotation through the charter line, you get a guy trained up, bam, he finds a private boat. You get a guy trained up, bam, he finds a private boat.
Right.
So the guys that have learned from that tree, it's just going to be more.
Yeah.
So.
And you're right. You're going to find guys from all of South Florida. Like, if they're catching big fish, they're catching a lot of fish. There's going to be someone from South Florida there, like without a doubt.
Yes.
Like, what's your opinion on the?
I mean, I grew up fishing. I grew up fishing all the sailfish tournaments and stuff down with Ben, and then in the summers I'd come up here and fish like the rodeo.
Yeah.
And Jamie's all of that series, and you would see, obviously you'd have Miami guys, you'd have Jimmy David and these guys on the freaking frag. You'd have a bunch of different styles of fishing, but more often than not, you would see a mix of kind of both styles in the mix, and I felt like that. Those meat tournaments growing up to me were like a bar of like a good day of fishing. I consider that's a good like guide day of fishing. You're catching multiple species. You have to be versatile to be able to do a few different things. Art back in those days, I can name years, 2008s, 2009s, where Art won the Showdown Crown, and every year in those summer tournaments that he won the Showdown Crown, he'd have a 60, 70, 80-pound wahoo. And obviously the people that know how he caught those in August and those late summer months. And there's a lot of stuff that you saw like doing those tournaments from a young age that made me like meet a bunch of like super cool Ryan Tubbs, Nick Cardella. The list goes on and on of guys that I fished with up here, and it's the same thing. I could be biased to a bunch of buddies I have in Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in this day and age, I think you're almost splitting hairs to say like one group of guys is better than the other, because we've watched it happen from Sailfish Pro Series to all these tournaments where, the Vitamin C days, Art Sap, you can name people from both sides of a tree that had their run.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, obviously I have, my alliance and my people that I fish with, the Joe Turners, the Dennis Forgiones, the Bouncers and stuff like that. So I'd be a little biased to Miami side, but there's definitely, my first sailfish was on the waterproof with Mario Fortier out of Lighthouse Point. And that's very much a Pompano guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's hard for me to say, me and Matt White get along great. There's a bunch of people up this way that from a younger age that I fished and were around, and they were able to share information and show me ways to fish up here. So it's hard to say. I think you're splitting hairs, but Ben makes a good point about the larger sheer numbers coming out of Miami and some of those trees, like the Miss Britt, tree of schooling. There's a bunch of guys that we can sit here and we could go on for forever. A bunch of guys that learned under Ray, bunch of guys that learned under Jimmy David, under Quentin, and under, John Louis Sr. I mean, we could go on forever and ever, on both sides of a coin. I moved my business up here to Fort Lauderdale, and fishing out of Fort Lauderdale, I can make a left or a right. And I come up here and I watch a style of fishing, and I go back home to Miami and I see another style of fishing. So I think you're splitting hairs at this point.
So you're coming out of Fort Lauderdale now?
Yeah, I come out of Fort Lauderdale every day, Port Everglades. Yes, sir.
Nice. So how often are you going north? How often are you going south? Like, do you find you're like leaning towards one over the other?
Not really. Honestly, I have good relationships with all, like, a bunch of buddies I still, grew up fishing with in Haulover. And then, Art and I speak very, very often. And, a few other guys up this way that I speak to, Chip and stuff like that. So, I mean, just depends on the bite and how long of a trip I have, honestly.
Yeah.
I doesn't hurt my feelings to come fish in front of Hillsboro or run and fish in front of Haulover. Or some days right in front of Lauderdale, it all depends.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting the observation that you're making about the cell phone changing, and then we talked about like social media changing and everything, and that might maybe help them break a lot of the barriers. Just like take all that out of the equation. You know what I mean? It's like it's just like anything in the world. Like if you open up communication, like things just seem less seamless. You know what I mean? Or seem more seamless, I should say. But I don't know. I just think it's interesting. It like speaks to the culture of it all too, right? There's like so many things have happened differently in just like the culture of the scene in a very short period of time, like over the years in regards to all that, and how like I think a lot more younger kids are fishing these days. It seems like than it used to. Like I don't know. I think back when we were kids, it was almost like. It wasn't as widespread.
It wasn't as cool.
Yeah, right. It wasn't as cool. Exactly.
Unquote, yeah.
Now everyone's got the clothes and they want to get all outfitted and everything like that. I mean, where do you see like the culture of it all heading?
Well, I think the more engines you put on boats, the bigger the boats get, the cooler it's going to get to everybody.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, drive around in a 25 or 31 with twins back in the day. Yeah. I mean, to us that were fishermen, wow, that's awesome. But to other people that are like, yeah, whatever. But then you see a quad, engine boat, and everybody's like, well, that's insane. How do I get one of those? You know what I mean? And, and then that's when you kind of get more of the interest, And
a lot of those people shouldn't be driving those boats.
That's the damn truth. That's the damn truth.
I mean, you see it all the time on your phone.
You wish there was more of a standard, to add the Ben's point. Yes, okay, cool and fine and dandy, 4 motors, crazy sound system, all this great stuff that we have going on now. And I think with social media and people actually seeing what happens and like some of the stuff that some of the awesome, for here it's live bait bites, but for the summer, like what's great in my head is awesome teaser bites and stuff like that. But you start some of the things that you see on social media, people want to go see that in person. So I could completely understand. Now in the day and age of TikTok and Instagram, you're looking at stuff, and you're seeing some of the clips and some of the videos of what people are out there doing. You're like, oh, well, I want to go out there and check that out. I see it all the time on my charter boat.
Yeah.
I also think just with the way that I guess you can't really talk to this year because it's an election year, but just the way the economy goes, it's going to become more of a rich man sport, where I feel that you're going to weed out more of the middle class that used to be able to afford a 31-foot boat.
You're kind of seeing the separation of wealth happen right now.
Right, and now the only time you're going fishing is on a quad engine boat because you have a buddy that has a 39 as opposed to having your own boat.
Right.
So that is going to accelerate, I think, the kind of like the and I hope this doesn't sound bad, but the class of person that's going to end up buying boats, and then you're going to see more on the water.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, boat sales are like leveling off. Like when in COVID, it was like crazy.
Yeah, now there's plenty of inventory. There's boat prices are starting to drop a little bit. I mean, and I don't know. I don't want to say that it's too much like that. I feel like when I first started doing this, like when I moved home from college in like those early 2000s, I felt like you almost saw like a shift of like what we're seeing now. That, it had gotten to the tippy top and everyone had a boat. And then, you showed up at a boat show and, a bunch of boat builders had like 1 or 2 boats at the boat show. Instead of selling 20 boats, they're selling 5 or 6. It's one of those things I try and be optimistic to say history repeats itself. We're going to be good. And eventually prices are going to come back down to where your average mom and pop family can say, hey, I want to go get a 27, whatever brand it may be, no allegiance to any brand. But I like to look at it a little more optimistic, a little more half full to say, everything comes full circle. We went all the way to the tippy top, and then now, history kind of repeats itself, and here we are, and you're going to have to, prices are going to naturally prices I think are going to come down, and it's going to be a little bit more inclusive. And I think that's the cool part about, like, we're talking about Jamie's summer tournaments and stuff like that. I mean, obviously the sailfish tournaments have almost priced it out that your regular mom and pop team is not going to go fish the sailfish circuit. I don't see that changing much, but
Dude, it was bonkers for a little while with the boat sales. And like, it was absolutely nuts.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I think that's a good point you bring up though about the whole cyclical kind of thing. And, just staying positive about it. But I don't know, man. Like, I almost feel kind of like I think they need to have like a boater's license.
Oh, that is a complete separate thing, and I agree 1,000%. I spent a lot of time picking people up at a boat ramp, and just a lot of time around, every boat ramp from Fort Lauderdale to, South Miami. I spent a lot of time at the boat ramps, and the stuff that you see just makes you shake your head on a daily basis as to, like, this guy has 4 motors, and he's putting this boat in and has no idea what's going on at all.
Like, I don't understand how it's not like a thing. You know what I mean? Like, Carlene, what do you think about that? Like a boating license? Like, how is that not like a thing? Like, I think you should have a boater's license. I mean, why would they not have
some kind of certification?
Yeah, I mean, you got to need a license to drive a car, so it's pretty self-explanatory.
So you're the Navy guy, right?
So
why would they not have that?
Well, I feel that it's been so unregulated that these boat companies have made so much money off of suckers that if you actually instated something like that, all the what are those guys called that are on the sidelines when it comes to getting laws pushed in?
Lobbyists
won't let it happen.
Right.
Because you'll see the sale of boats go plummeting when it's like, oh man, I gotta have a clue how to drive this thing. Nah, I don't want it.
Right.
You know,
they go through a course.
Yeah. So I agree. 100. I've been around some horrific boat accidents.
Right.
That's for sure.
You know what I mean? And I feel that if there was a little bit of knowledge, that it would have been not an accident. But I don't think that some of these larger boat companies will allow that to happen.
I mean, I don't know, man. I think it would be helpful if and you guys, most of these guys are drinking, and and that's not being really regulated. I mean, I understand you're going to be out on the boat, you're going to want to have a drink or two, but some of these guys are just completely hammered, no license, just running roughshod, and they got, like you said, like a quad boat that they can't handle.
And then it's almost like you see some of these social media videos and stuff like that. It's almost like egging it on,
right?
Knowing that XYZ is going to be at this inlet or XYZ is going to be at that inlet. So now it's like, oh, okay, well, we really got to make sure when we come out the inlet, we, do whatever hot shot maneuver or, push the boat harder than you probably can handle.
Have as many half-naked girls on the boat as I can.
Oh, look, there's wavy boats. Everybody
what I mean? So,
there's nothing wrong with half-naked girls on the boat. You just have to do it safe.
Yeah, well, maybe you just need to know how to operate the boat with the half-naked girls.
Different floating buoyancy,
right.
Floating devices.
Like, also, I'm just trying to be safe.
All right, let me ask you guys both a question, right? And this one question going to both of you guys. You answer it separately. So it's just something I always like to ask everyone on the show. And I don't think I ever asked you this question yet, even though this is your 3rd time here, right? What's your one that got away?
Fish.
Everyone has one. I know what I'm talking about.
Just not
and don't say Mike Lambrechts.
No.
Go ahead, man. You want to go first?
Jeez.
What's your one that got away? Everyone's got one, right? You might have multiple. But everyone's got that one, really.
For sure, too.
I really wish I had that one back. Like, it was probably an avoidable circumstance or something you should have done differently.
Huh.
Damn.
Last year on my boat, we Troy and myself, we had some guys that booked us for 3 days. We fished the John Michael Baker tournament. We finished in 2nd in that, did pretty well. And we still hadn't gotten these guys a sailfish. And they wanted to catch a sailfish. Take them out the morning right before their flight. So it's like, oh, we got 4 hours or whatever. We take them out there, and we're drifting like right off the cranes in Fort Lauderdale. Like, any Lauderdale guy will tell you, oh, off the cranes, da da da. And like, before I moved to Lauderdale, I'm like, there's nothing to it. Like, this is a spot. You know what I mean? So we're drifting off the cranes. We ended up catching 2 sails, and we were like on our last drift, and clear as day, like yellowfin tuna, like over 100, airs out and eats a spinner.
Really?
And he eats the spinner and he's coming at us and he eats another spinner. So now we got him on 2 lines. And we watched him eat both baits. And Troy, I mean, I'm Ben's fished with Troy, and Troy will not fault me for what I'm going to say. Troy's a very excitable young man. So he's very excited with our guest that day. And, we're fighting this fish. We're doing donuts offshore. And we caught the 2 sails really quick. We're like 3 hours into the charter. And now these guys are starting to look at the time like, hey, we kind of got to catch a flight.
Right.
And Troy, that was the last thing he wanted to hear. He's like, you guys can reschedule, like, this fish of a lifetime.
You can reschedule your flight.
So, I mean, long story short, we put a little more heat on the fish. I mean, it probably was very much like would have been the very first catchable yellowfin, like, out here, and put a little more heat on them, and we ended up, chafing them off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the first year I had my boat, the first year I had my boat with some guests, and, like, middle of May.
This yellowfin was just
the yellowfin was
last week.
This was last year.
Last year,
right around the same time.
Okay.
So we chafed them off. Ended up going in. Got pulled over by Homeland Security. They were still late for their flight. It was definitely something memorable because of a bite. Like the fish came all the way out the water, ate the first bait, and then the second bait, just like someone threw a Volkswagen Beetle on the second bait. And then the second one, I would say, was the first year I had my boat. Like one of my first charters I ever ran. I just trolling offshore with like a couple like little feathers, and we hooked a blue marlin, like probably a 300 or 400 pound blue marlin on TLD 25. And I thought for sure, I was like, we're not going to catch this thing. And it actually ended up breaking the hook.
Really?
Like, broke the actual hook. Like never had that happen again, but broke an actual hook. And I would say those would be my 2. And then fast forward to this year, catch 2 blue marlin in one spring season, one with Ben and one on my little boat this year.
Yeah, nice.
But I would say those would be my 2. The yellowfin last year and a blue marlin, those probably pushing 400 the first year.
That would have been nice to bring that in.
That would have been.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm pretty sure if a charter I had would have wanted to harvest it, so it's okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have really wanted to do that,
Ben, you think of one?
Yeah. It's a fish that we never got a hook in, but it was when I was really, really green with the whole marlin stuff, and we were fishing Crooked Island, and we're trolling. I look back, and it's just the biggest thing I've ever seen, just behind the right long, and he sat there with his pecs out, just cruising, just like, all right, I'm gonna eat you, motherfucker. But he never ate, just sat there and just like he. Come up to it and he back off. Come up to it, we slid a mackerel behind it. Come up to it, he back off. And just, like looking like hindsight, all the other things that I could have done, like speed up or anything like that, or make a turn. But that fish sat back there for what felt like 30 minutes. It was probably like 2 minutes of just tracking a bait and just and never, just never doing it. But I mean, I've caught a couple fish that we estimated in the 6+ range, and that was by far just absolutely dwarfed everything that I've hooked that big. Yeah, and I was just really. Like, I think back to that, and I'm just like, man, like what if we would have done this?
Yeah.
I just never got it the fish to commit, to commit, and all these guys that are seasoned marlin fishermen will be like, whatever, forget about it. But it sticks in my mind.
Yes, yeah. I could see why if it's as big as you're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let me float something by you guys because we've talking about marlin like a few times here on this episode, right? So there's been a little bit of talk lately from a friend of mine and a few other guys that they're trying to see if they can get a fad offshore here, right? And they got one up in Pensacola, right? And they've had success on it, right? And it's so there's a case study, a proof case study that it works and it can happen. How do you guys feel about that? Like if we could put fads out here, I almost think like if they put one out here, you're gonna have to put them all up and down the coastline because everyone's gonna want their own, right? But how do you feel about putting a fad out here?
So I've never fished Costa Rica, so I'm gonna ask you, Jason, how much current is there in Costa Rica? Is there a lot?
There's not much current in Costa Rica, but there's a decent amount in Dominican.
In the Dominican, that's what I meant. I didn't mean Costa Rica.
Yeah, in Dominican, there's a good amount of current.
Is it comparable to what we get here?
I mean, in certain places, I would say, yeah, it is.
Yeah,
In certain
that would be
places.
my only thing. Is that all right? So is it comparable to the amount of current we get here? Also, do they have the amount of freighter and cruise ship traffic that we have here?
I wouldn't say as much, but I think that it would be something very much doable and something that could work after spending the time that I spent in Dominican Republic. These guys in Louisiana are doing a bunch of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some
They have
locations
fads in Louisiana.
Yeah.
and the government is actually sponsoring that in Louisiana. So I don't think I don't see what the issue would be, short of putting it in the shipping lanes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if you had something 400, 500, 700 foot of water. I don't, and then, you know, these guys in Dominican they're using engine blocks
Yeah.
and poly, and you know, in 2,000 feet of water, they're dropping 3,000 feet of, you know, poly, you know, line, and they got palm fronds and tarps and all kinds of stuff, and it's something that it's maintenance. You can't just leave
Right.
it out there. You know, those guys down there in Dominican Republic, Casa de Campo, the club actually sponsors a bunch of fads, and you get down there at the beginning of the year, and they hand you a whole bunch of fads. Obviously, there's boats down there, and spending time down there, there's boats down there that have fads from commercial fishermen and local guys, you know, and that's a whole different deal. But
Right.
I don't see why it would. I mean, short of just the boat traffic and just like everything else that we have in Miami,
Right.
it being bumper to bumper. I mean, other than that, I don't see why there wouldn't be fish on
You have
it.
everyone go,
You know,
like right at the fads.
there's a spot in Miami right now that everyone's crushing, you know, all kinds
Yeah.
of tunas and fish
Right.
like that, and that's all due to structure as well. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So, you know, and that's no secret anymore. You know,
Right.
Well, I mean, that's why listen. Hopefully, Texas, you know, resources doesn't like listen to this podcast, because when we were in Texas, we put our own fat down in like 600 feet of water, and it was the most beautiful thing ever. We were catching wahoos every time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there are mahis on it. We never caught a billfish on it. So the magic of fads, they work all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially the more isolated, the more desert like it is, the better. And from what I remember, there used to be a couple fads right off the Trumps back in the day.
Right.
Up
that's
in
what I was
Shallow.
gonna get to, because
And-
I was
and,
like,
like,
there's been
100
guys
120 feet of water.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
guys
mean?
for
Which is the
years
same
setting their
thing.
own fads. You talk about
Yeah.
pompano guys. There's
Yeah.
been guys
So
for years.
and, yeah, all
setting
that
their
stuff
own
that I
fads.
show up on the spot, and guys would be like, "Oh, he knows that one," you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, motherfucker, we know that one.
Yep.
So it's I mean, like, sponsored by the state and allowed, you know, that'd be pretty cool. But I mean, that hasn't stopped these guys before. Hell, when they took away bug, you know,
Right.
every other fisherman went out there with like tubs and stuff like that, and started dumping stuff in the water.
I mean, 'cause I think like if you get government involved, or even if it's like privately funded, but if you put like a legit, like real deal, like fad out there, like I kind of see, and what really made me think to bring this up with you guys, I kind of see like a legitimate blue marlin fishery here.
Oh, it's here. It's here. I just don't think anyone.
Well,
has
that's what I'm
ever,
saying. I don't think people,
Yeah,
but
we
I
just
think
haven't
that
put
would
the
enhance
time.
it
That would
to make it
enhance it.
undeniable.
100%. I would enhance it.
And that would do wonders for even just the economy, the fishing economy down here.
I don't think the time has been put into it. You talk to like older guys like Bouncer and stuff like that, and Bouncer will tell you about a certain time of year that, you know, they would literally target yellowfins. Like
Yeah, I
that would
remember
be
that.
the target. You'd go out there and they were targeting yellowfin tunas, and
I think it was Bouncer I was talking to the other day, that he was saying that they tried it like years ago, and like it failed. Like they were trying to like get one done. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't speak to it because I don't really have the knowledge on it. But
I can definitely tell you there's been a couple guys, Lauderdale guy Norm, another guy TJ. They've spent some time the last few years. These guys have just gone out there, put out a couple mudflap dredges and lures, and the lure fishing, not even teaser fishing. They're strictly lure fishing, and they've gotten shots out here. I think it's just more so putting in the time. I mean, every year in the last at least 5 years, I can say, for sure the last 2 years, because I've been here. The years previous, I've been in the Bahamas. But the last 2 years, I can say I've seen multiple blue marlin both years.
yeah,
Like, if you were ready, you would have got them, you know?
right.
So I
That's
think it's
the
just
thing.
the
If
time.
you're ready, I mean, you know, but who's ready for that around here?
Well, the equation they use, especially in like Key West, is a shot every 3 days.
I believe
if you're targeting them.
At Key West?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like during the summer when the mahis are on and stuff like that. Like you'll get a shot every 3 days if you just marlin fished.
Right.
And I feel that the shot is actually a little better up here than down there.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
Because I mean, the amount of fish I've seen, you know, I mean, mahis running for their lives and blue marlin chasing them and stuff. You know,
dude, I hooked in the one, right, and this can't even qualify as one that got away for me because there was no chance I was getting this fish, right? Like I'm sitting there, I'm on. I don't even know what the hell kind of boat it was. A 20-foot something. This is like single screw back in the day. Like I was young, you know what I mean? And I was out with my buddy Joey, and we were just trolling Penn Senators for mahi. That's all we were trying to do, right? It was Memorial Day, and we were just doing like a quick little trip in the morning, and we had to go to a barbecue in the afternoon and meet up with a bunch of people on the beach and stuff like that. So he's like, hey, let's just run out for a little bit. And he grabbed the couple like Senators, the old school, right? It's freaking clip-on ballyhoo, like all kinds of shit like that. I was like, all right, let's just drag them, have fun. I cracked the beer, have fun. All of a sudden, I'm like, what the? Like, biggest marlin I've ever seen. Like, just horsing away off into the horizon. And it's just like, yeah, there's no way I'm getting, it was insane. But it was a huge fish. Like, just like, I don't know, man. Like, if you could imagine, like, Zeus riding, like, a freaking horse through the water. It was, like, swimming away like that. This thing was massive. Yeah. But I was just like, there was, not the one to go away. There's no way that was even happening. I don't even care if he like turned the boat and started racing after the thing. We weren't getting it. Yeah, not in what we were fishing with. No way.
That's awesome. This seems like those big ones always eat the smallest thing you have in your spread too, which is funny. Yeah, you know, like if you're fishing with like 230s and like everything's 80s, they're gonna eat the 30.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's funny. Talking about Costa Rica, for my 30th birthday, my wife, we did like a surprise. She did a surprise like trip for me. So whatever. We ended up going to Costa Rica. All my buddies meet me there. Like she's like, we're in customs line. She's like, I'm so sorry. I invited your friends. Some people didn't make it. I invited your friends. They couldn't come, whatever, but we're going to have fun. It's going to be a good time. Don't worry about it. Blah, 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 blah.
You're in Costa Rica.
We're in Costa Rica. So little by little, friends start to show up. The day that we're fishing, my buddy George is jigging like a little like dink tuna jigging, and we have the video, and like when he gets the bite, like the rod, it's like a 30 timeness and the rod almost flies out of his hand, and I'm like, and he goes, oh, it's your birthday, like, oh, here you go, first fish. And like at that moment you watch the exchange. He hands me the rod, and it's like taking a little bit of line off, and we thought nothing of it, and then it just dumps me into the backing, and we're just like, okay, the captain's like, oh, maybe it's a manta ray. Sometimes these manta rays are, with these spinner dolphins. Maybe we snagged a manta ray. Like, had no idea what we hooked,
So it's just like a slow pull off the reel?
It was a slow pull at first, and then it started dumping line.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And kind of up, down, like changing directions, doing pretty erratic stuff. So we're like, oh, we don't know what it is. Fighting this fish, and ended up fighting it for 2 hours on 30 pound with no harness, no belt, no nothing, and it ended up being like a tuna that we estimated like 180 yellowfin, and no way in any shape or fashion we thought, like, we're seeing these little 30 pounders, 40 pounders getting up, so like, oh, we're gonna catch a couple tunas, we're drinking some beers, a little hungover, having a good time. And I'm there like sweating. We went through a rainstorm. My wife's seasick.
Oh no!
It's just like a whole ordeal. And like, whatever,
whole ordeal.
We ended up landing the fish. But talking about Costa Rica, that's probably my coolest Costa Rica story. And like big fish and really, really small. Like you said, small tackle.
Yeah.
Like definitely would not have wanted to ever do that again on 30-pound tackle. Never.
Right.
Again. I'm good.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I mean, I don't know. If you're not set up with the right situation, then that's a tough situation, tough scenario.
Yeah. Hell, there's times when I'm spooling reels. I'm like, damn, thank God I don't have to reel these things. I'm like, damn, I'm tired.
Oh my God, that's funny. So what's next for you guys?
I just got some charters and.
You got summer coming up?
Yeah, summer. I do all Jamie's meat tournaments on my little boat, so that's pretty exciting for
It's funny you brought up the meat tournaments earlier when we were talking about the old Miami Broward thing. Not to like harp on that again, but it's funny. Like, do they have like the big like meat scene down there in Miami? Like they don't, right?
No.
I mean, it's like
that's kind of going to my point.
These manglers, yeah, like bringing it here, and like all you just imagine like all these like little kids in their little imperial boots, and and just all bloody all the time. I mean, that's hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
So they have, man, it's like who's who fishes these little private school tournaments,
right,
down in Miami. They got the Columbus, the St. Teresa,
right.
This weekend, the same weekend as this tournament, they had another small tournament, a shake a leg and never meet tournament.
But it's like who's who. Like these guys that are fishing all the tournaments, like the Sailfish tournaments, will pop in. They're fishing for their kids and stuff. So yeah, I mean, and it's a meat fish format.
Right,
but it's nowhere near as. I mean, it's as competitive, but the results are never as awesome.
You don't have people weighing 200 pounds of fish,
right?
In any of those tournaments,
you're winning with 90 to 100. Something pounds.
If any of those guys make a left and come up here and
watch out,
yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that like, no, it's not. And growing up doing those and seeing that scene, and then going to Miami, like nothing. Like obviously, I'm a Miami guy, but like the rodeo and all Jamie's stuff is like,
and that runs all the way up to like Fort Pierce.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That whole scene.
Oh yeah.
Right, and they got that Fort Pierce, the Kingfish, that new tournament.
Mm-hmm.
That came on pretty fast. That pretty tournament, it got big quick.
Are you talking about Jimmy
the King
Wickett's
Mackerel?
thing?
Yeah. No, the King Mackerel Invitational.
Oh. Yeah, there's an invitational now.
Yeah.
Fort Pierce. Fort Pierce Invitational or something like that. That's a pretty big one.
Yeah. And it's only like their third year.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, but they got their first year out. They got like a ton of boats.
Really,
it's just different. Even like when I first did Jamie's tournaments, there were 90, 100 boats doing.
Yeah.
The slam or the shootout or any of those tournaments, and it's still like that. There's still 60, 70 boats. I don't think that you find any of that anywhere in the summer anywhere. Miami, we said the Grove Slam, which was like the highlight of Miami fishing. You'd get 100 boats to go do a mahi tournament, but now I don't feel like in the summer, even up here, I don't feel like it's the same. In the rodeo days and some other tournaments that I got to fish up here, I don't feel it's the same vibe, just because I feel like a lot of people are absent now, tuna fishing, blue marlin fishing, or whatever their schedule.
Well, I think a lot of everyone getting access to like the larger center consoles, everyone's like running across now more often than they were in the past, and and even listen, it's tough to sustain a tournament for a long period of time. I know the rodeo eventually they had to kind of shut it down because unless you have like a huge like volunteer base to help you run that thing and do it, it's very hard. Yeah, it's very hard, and to keep it profitable enough to like keep it running for a long period of time. I mean, and
that was the one that I say that I wish, like, that I miss out of all of them. The one that I had the most fun doing is like that rodeo tournament.
That was the best tournament, and
that format that was killer.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool, and the seafood festival was like in combination the same weekend, and that was it's true. Some really good memories doing those tournaments. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming in the full on meat season now, but I was talking to someone, and I'm not going to say who it was or what the tournament was because I don't want to expose like the situation, but I was talking to someone that we all know that was saying it's like, man, this is probably going to be the last year for the tournament, and the tournament's been around for a while, and he's just like, it's all falling on me now. Like the guys that were helping me run it are no longer here anymore, and it's just now everyone just expects like snap of fingers or wave a magic wand, and the tournament just pops up and happens again. He goes, I'm just tired of it, and it's just
a lot of
this
work.
Might be like the last year for it.
I mean, Ben could speak to that for sure.
To dust them off.
Yep.
And for years it was just me.
Yeah.
It all depends on just how much love you have into it. Yes, you did. But it depends on what, like, if you're tired of doing it, then you're just tired. I mean, it doesn't matter who's helping you or not. But there are years of that tournament where obviously I had people volunteering, but that was just the night of.
Right.
Not the development of, not calling everybody to find out who's sponsors, who's taking entry and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was solo. So, that just like, if you're tired, you can't afford to put on a half-ass event.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, either you're all in or just get out.
Yeah.
Because
especially if it's not your first job.
Exactly.
You know, if it's like just an extra thing you're doing, which is most of these tournaments.
Right.
And
you know, remember, none of these people sympathize with whatever issues you have going on. All they want to do is make sure that their money goes to the right spot.
Right.
So if you can't provide that kind of product, it's just not worth you doing it, because all you're gonna do is piss people off. You know what I mean? So and I mean, I don't know who you're talking about, but I mean that's how I looked at it.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I almost ended up canceling my tournament, and thank God I had Courtney.
Yeah, Courtney came in and really helped. I remember you telling me that before, that she really helped you out.
Oh, big time. You know, I mean, she took over, and I just basically show up and I read the rules. That's her tournament.
Right.
You know. So, but to also piggyback on the whole, you know, the end of, you know, losing interest and stuff, we tried to have a second tournament, and we realized, man, it's just that unless you've had a good season sail fishing, you're already looking forward to the next thing. Yellowfin,
especially once you
blue marlin.
By the time you get to April.
Oh, I can't wait to go up the coast.
Yeah.
And then the last thing you want to hear at the end of March or the beginning of April is about another tournament.
Right.
You know, they're ready to just be
turn
like,
me out by then.
So how much are my dredge mullets again? You know,
I already got my bait order in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so with the dust them off, I mean, you really experienced that then, like the burnout of it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Like I said, especially when we tried to have a second tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think everybody that has a tournament.
Was that the put them away?
Yeah, put them up.
Yeah, put them up. Yeah.
Yeah, which you know, I think everybody that has a tournament can kind of is like, all right, so how can we piggyback, especially if it's successful? How can I piggyback off of the success? And the first time I was like, man, you know, there's no way this won't work out. And then the first year we got 18 boats. Yeah. And then I looked at it and I was like, I think we outkicked our coverage with this one. I think maybe let's slow it down a bit.
Yeah.
And just put on the best tournament that we can have, as opposed to having multiple tournaments.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I mean, it takes a lot out of you when you're trying to put it together. You know, especially if you have multiple tournaments that you're doing. Which Courtney has multiple tournaments that she does.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
interesting. Yeah, it's a lot doing extra things in general. We talked about when I was doing the 365. You know what I mean? Just putting that extra task on top of what you're already doing. It's a lot. I mean, look at Yanni. Yanni runs his own business too, but he's got like extra things going on. Look, he's running this show, and he's got all his side projects that he does. You know what I mean? You got to have passion behind it, though.
100%.
You know, and that's, I think, the only way really to get through it.
And people can sense when you lose it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When things get half-assed, oh, this is it. This is all we're having for dinner. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're like, motherfucker, I just put my heart into this. You know what I mean? Like, if they act like this, but be true to yourself, though. Like, if you know, like, maybe I could have done a little better, then it's time.
Yeah.
Time to move on.
I say the same thing in tournament. You can say that about a bunch of stuff. Tournament fishing, like as
life,
life, I guess too. But like as a captain, like you say you're gonna run someone's boat, or you know, be a captain, or you know, for me, charter fish or whatever the case may be. Like once you lose that passion, like if you try and equate hours to dollars and what we do for a living, you're gonna be a very
forget about it. Yeah.
upset person. Dennis Forgio will tell me all the time, this is a labor of love. You're doing it because you love it and you have a passion for it. And if you don't have that and you start to feel yourself lose that, that's the time when you say, hey, you know what, I need to step away because this isn't my deal anymore. Like there's no other way to put it, because this is not getting rich. Dennis would always tell me, we live like rock stars and we die broke.
Right.
That is the summary of like what we do for a living, but it's something that you enjoy. Like my parents, my dad, God rest his soul, my mom, they always said, hey, look, you know, you do something, you know, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day, blah, 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 all that great stuff. My dad would always tell me is when your heart and your head are in sync, like there's nothing that you can't do.
I like that.
So fishing wise, I feel like that's very much true. If you're in it and you have heart about it, and your head, you already know what you need to see and what needs to happen. If those two things match up with any given captain that we can name, we can go down the list, and everyone's had their run. When those two things are in sync, that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that very much.
J-Rob throwing knowledge bombs on us here.
No.
Is you gonna start crying now, Dennis?
No.
Okay, it's about that time of the hour where we know Dennis starts crying.
No, we are at that time though. So I just say let's just wrestle up to the bar, enjoy some drinks, and thank you guys for coming on the show.
Absolutely, brother.
Did you guys have fun?
Finally do it, dude.
Yeah,
For sure.
it's nice.
Brother. Yes.
It's nice. We got to talk about Mike Lambrechts a lot.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure he's gonna appreciate that.
I literally just went to lunch with him a few months ago, so
Did you?
as long as he knows that it was just Ben talking about him.
Come on. I didn't say anything bad. That's
No, I
the truth.
mean, you guys are talking about your
I think I did more damage
Your
than
childhood.
Yeah.
his childhood came up. You know what I mean? I don't know if the CCA wants to hear about that.
Listen, I don't know, but I say we got about another 10 years before he runs for governor.
Oh yeah, no.
Right?
Hopefully,
Yeah,
this podcast will be deleted.
That's what
It'll
he
be
said.
like, hey, I'm gonna need you to delete that. I'm running for
Clean
governor.
the internet.
It's funny that at the end we were talking. I'm like, okay, if you want to, find Mikey, you go at MFN Media. You find Mike Lambrechts on Instagram at POTUS. He's
And
like, no, not yet.
Mikey's actually a cool dude. I spent some time with Mikey. I actually did a show with Peter,
Mm-hmm.
and I spent some time with Mikey then, and that was like
Nice
right around the same time that he had like just got out of college. So like I got like his whole story. He's super green at that point. Just got out of college, just got hired with Peter Miller. It was like maybe like his 6th or 7th show in.
Yeah.
Like he was pretty fresh there and super nice guy. We've stayed in contact since then. I mean, Mike Lambrechts lives down the street from me. We've gone to lunch.
Yeah.
We have a little Thai place that we go to lunch, and then both pretty cool guys. So it's funny to watch that episode.
You should go with the pens kicking in.
Not ending it on that note, man. Like all I can think of is little Thai boys for some reason.
Oh,
but we're not.
No, Thai lunch. Thai lunch
Like,
food.
I'm all the way in the corner.
Currently,
You guys
Thai
put
lunch
baby in a
food.
corner
No,
over
there's
here.
Thai
Here.
food on 15th Street. It's great.
I'm just
Food.
playing.
What's the name of it?
17th Street, actually.
17th Street Thai.
Yeah,
Yes.
17th Street Thai. Yeah.
17th Street. Yeah.
It's good
She
food.
knows where it is.
No boys.
And Quarterdeck. Quarterdeck's her spot. That's her spot. No?
No, he seemed to be fired up there sometimes. No, it's good. It's all right.
She likes what was that? The South African sandwiches or something? What is
The
that?
Meals in a Pie.
Yeah.
Where's
Yeah.
that?
Right over on Florinata and
What's it-
US 1. It's
Really?
it's a South African spot where you can get biltong and meat pies.
Yeah, she called me from there. I'm like,
Yeah,
I didn't
check
realize
that
that it
out.
had like a
It's
South
called Meals
in a
African
Pie. It's
restaurant.
on
It seemed
point.
kind of cool.
You go there,
I
and
mean-
they have like probably 9 different kinds of pies, and you get your biltong either shaved or cut right off. They got several different South African kind of little treats there.
Well, Fort Lauderdale is like the Cape Town of like America.
Yeah,
it really?
The yachties and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
It's just I'm
Yeah.
not a fan of the people. I like the food.
Fort Lauderdale? You're not a fan of the people?
No, she's talking about.
South Africa.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking
the
about
food's
Fort
good.
Lauderdale. I was like, Fort Lauderdale?
For the record, I love everybody.
He just doesn't want to. He's afraid
Even
for something bad to go out. Yeah, I'm not everything.
I don't know, man. I heard what they did to Nelson Mandela. No, Nelson Mandela. That was the rum right there.
Yeah.
Speaking
I
of
think we
different
should have
language
brought
right
some
now.
meals in a pie or some Thai food or something.
Tom Jenkins. You know?
Next, I'm good with that. Some collard greens.
Had Tom Jenkins this week.
Oh,
Did you?
man.
That's a good spot.
Let's talk about Mandela.
All right.
What are you talking about?
Well, I know what the South Africans did to Nelson Mandela. That's
Oh,
what I'm saying.
okay.
30 years of prison.
Right. Yeah.
So, 28 years, actually. That's it.
I dated a South African.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, he wasn't even South African. He was Rhodesian.
What?
So he was actually
Ridgeback?
he was from Zimbabwe. So he was this is when they took it over like way back.
Fuck
He
you,
was-
the only one that got that.
So that's not even considered South Africa.
Dirty dog.
I have and back yes.
All right. We're going to get out of here. We're going to continue this conversation at the bar.
Yes.
Ben, Jason,
Thank you,
Absolutely.
sir.
thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming
Pleasure
in.
as always, my friend.
Yeah,
Always
for
a
sure.
pleasure.
All right. Carlene.
Good to
2
see you
thumbs
guys.
up. All right. Your ego is not your amigo. Always do your best at the end of the day. Just let God do the rest. Do not ever forget that no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we're all connected by water.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.